And you recall a little bit ago, we were walking in front of the blacksmith shop. Again, very important guy in town. Now, he helped me recently. I was in my barn, and I noticed that I had a whole bunch of extra horseshoes. I had 4 nice horseshoes for my horse, and I had a whole bunch of extras. They were just sitting on nails, and they've been sitting there for years. I collected them, put them in a sack. I had 16 of them. They're made out of iron. I took them to the blacksmith, and I said, hey, can you melt this down? And while it's hot, it gets soft, and you can quickly work on it. Okay? You use the anvil and a hammer to kind of reshape metal once it's hot and it's soft. Okay? Then it cools and hardens again. I'm going to show you the things that he made for me. I gave him a half a wagon load of corn in exchange for his work. Again, that's called barter, exchanging goods and services without the use of money. You've already seen one thing that he made for us. The ice star. Okay? At one time, this was a horseshoe, and it's been crafted into something else. Very much like the way that you recycle materials. We do the same thing. Okay? Here's something else he made for us. One of my real troubles has been handling big bundles of hay. Now, your farmers have balers, and they can make them into cubes, okay? We don't have that kind of machinery, and so we just bundle it. And it's very heavy, very awkward, especially if it gets damp. If it gets wet, it's even heavier. We're going to use our imagination. Here's my wagon. The horse is down at that end. The wagon's here. I lower the tailgate so that I can get at the bundles of hay. He made a hay hook for me. You'll notice it's got a handle on it. It's got a hook on this end. I hook into one of the bundles. I drag it to the end of the wagon, to the tailgate. I flip it up over my shoulder, and off I go. Okay? This is a tool that makes work easier. Okay? Again, at one time, this was a horseshoe. That's right. Another concern. I've got a nice horse. I've got a nice saddle, but the saddle had wooden stirrups. As you might know, the stirrups are for you to put your feet on. Okay? Your feet rest in the stirrup. You also know that with age, wood will rot. Not good. Okay? And so, the blacksmith made 2 iron stirrups. I threw away the wooden ones. I threw them in the fireplace, actually, to burn. And now I sleep a lot better knowing that nobody's going to get hurt because of a broken stirrup. One of my frustrations, my cow. Her name is 2. She's our milk cow. Now, at one time, we had 2 milk cows. The older one we named 1. The younger one we named 2. Now, about a year ago, 1 died, and that left us with just 2. So, 2 has a bad habit. She likes to wander off looking for greener pastures, looking for greener grass. Okay? And sometimes she's out of view, and we waste a lot of time running around trying to find her. And so the blacksmith... Cowbell, that's right, made a cowbell for me. I put it around 2's neck, and now all we have to do is listen. Now, our next door neighbor has a milk cow. Her name's, the woman's name is Hilda, but her cow has a very deep-sounding cowbell. The blacksmith is so skilled, he can change the sound. So ours is kind of a high-pitched sound. If I hear the low-pitched sound, I know that it's Hilda's cow, and I just ignore it. So we're listening for just the high-pitched bell. So the blacksmith, a very important person in our community. Let's continue walking. We go a little further, and we come to a sign like this. Once again, no words, no print. This is our barber shop. Now, I went by your barber shop this morning, and the only thing they were doing in there was cutting hair. Our barber does a lot more than that. Our barber cuts hair, also a dentist. If you come and say, I've got this tooth is bothering me, he can't drill it and fix it for you, but he can yank it. You go back 3 months later, I've got one, but yanks that one. Before too long, some people don't have very many teeth left, okay? But he is able to do that sort of dentistry. He's also a surgeon. If somebody gets a cut, he can sew it up, stitch it up for you. If you break a finger, he can put a splint on it for you, or a leg, to try to help you out. If you've got a sore throat, he goes to his manual. He has recipes, and he finds a recipe for salve, a salve that you can put on your throat and upper chest to try to soothe your sore throat. And he looks at the recipe and he sees animal fat, puts that in there. Crushed tea leaves, puts that in there. He shreds up some hot pepper, that's where the heat comes in. Put that in there. And then he spreads it on your throat and upper chest, and as you know, sometimes heat can be soothing. Okay? If somebody comes and says they've got chills, I need a volunteer that's got chills. Why don't you come up here? This guy's got chills. We're going to have to try to heat him up a little bit. Okay? We're going to shred up some hot pepper, sort of like your jalapeno pepper, and we're going to feed a couple of spoonfuls to him. Okay? I guarantee it works every time. Beads of sweat will form on his forehead. His mouth will get hot, just like what happens to you when you eat hot pepper. Now, it looks like maybe he's got a fever now. Okay, he's got a fever. We're going to have to do something about that. And so, we're going to take some cool cucumber. We're going to put it on his wrist because the blood is very close to the surface there. Feel that coolness? If we had time, and if we had enough cucumbers, we'd put one on each wrist, we'd put them on his temples, and gradually try to cool him down a little bit, get rid of that fever. Okay? Thanks for helping us out. Now, let's say the person has a sore throat, doesn't go away. Oh, now the doctor knows that the reason that person's sick is they've got bad blood. They have to do something called bloodletting. And they will open up a vein in your arm and take out about an ounce of blood. If you come back a couple days later and say you still feel rotten, they'll take another ounce of blood. That's where that red comes in. That indicates, yes, we do bloodletting here in this shop. Okay, that's where that comes in. Sometimes they even put a little pool of blood in a bowl and set it in the window, that sort of thing. So it's called bloodletting. Okay. All right. Well, let's keep walking. We come to a meadow. You would call it a park. We call it a green, Lexington Green. Okay? Nice big meadow. Sometimes people have a horse staked out to graze a little bit. People sit down with blankets and have picnics. And some people take strolls through the park. But right in the middle of the park is a great big platform. That's where we deal with punishment. In a little town like ours, we can't afford a jail. Jails are expensive to build, and it's even more expensive to hire people to keep an eye on the prisoners and feed the prisoners, okay? And so, we have this. It's called stocks, okay? You'll notice that we've sawed a great big wooden block in half. We pick it up, we make holes for wrists and arms. So you stick your neck in there and your wrists like this, okay? And then we ease it down. We're not trying to hurt anybody. We just want to embarrass them, okay? And so they lock each side, and so forth. I'm going to give you 3 examples of how we deal with punishment. This happened about 3 months ago. My neighbor Hilda, that I mentioned earlier, she was cooking bread. It got very hot. Around her fireplace, I would guess. And so, in the privacy of her own home, she rolled up her sleeves. Not a problem, as long as she's not doing it in public. Okay? She rolls up her sleeves because it's so hot. Then, her favorite cat darted out the door, and as it ran, it almost got hit by a wagon that was passing by in front of her house. That scared her. And so, without thinking, she went running out with her arms bare as can be, ran right through the middle of town, trying to chase her cat. People saw her. You can imagine what a scandal that was. Oh, did you see Hilda? Everybody saw her naked arms. Oh! Word got around to the church elders. We rely on parents to take care of their children's behavior from birth up through about age 12. Starting at about age 13, then the church elders take over and they decide what punishments are going to be. They had a meeting and decided that her punishment was going to be shunning. S-H-U-N. That's the root word. Shunning. Okay? And that means that no one's going to talk to her. No one's going to make eye contact with her. Nobody's going to write her any messages. and she can't communicate with us for about 7 days and 7 nights. Not even her own family. Okay? And then, again, that's called shunning. Let's take it to the next level. This happened this past summer. A real nice young man. I'm going to say he was probably about 14 years old. He was taking a walk, and he saw a chicken work its way through the farmer's fence. Instead of doing the right thing, picking it up and putting it back over the fence, or taking it to the farmer's house, instead, he kept the chicken. He went to the edge of town. There was a traveler on his way to Boston. He sold the chicken, and he pocketed the money. That's called stealing. Stealing somebody else's property. Word got around to the church elders, and the decision was he would be put in stocks. It was a hot July day. He was in the stocks for 12 hours. Okay, that's a long time. He got a bad sunburn. A family member gave him some water and some bread. When the 12 hours were up, they let him go. Okay. We had a really serious thing happen about 4 years ago. We had a guy, kind of the town bully. And it seems like every town has one. He was a hothead. He got angry a lot, and so forth. One day he got mad and he punched out his neighbor and knocked out a couple of his teeth. His punishment was he put him in the stocks for a few hours. Then we took him out, and right next door to the stocks is a post. It's sort of like one of your telephone poles. It sticks in the ground. It's about that big around. Took him to a post. We tied his hands behind his back. Somebody held his ear next to the post. Somebody took a hammer and a spike and nailed his ear to the post. That's called dogging. That's where that word dog-eared pages comes from. Okay, the floppy ear thing. Okay, we dog him. He has to stand like this for about, I think it was like about 3 hours, something like that. Then we took the spike out, we cleaned him up, and we kicked him out of town. He had a nice house, he had a cow, horse, and so forth. We confiscated all that, we kicked him out of town and said, don't come back. Okay. There was a woman who had 3 children who had recently lost her husband to illness. She was struggling and needed some help. We gave her the nice house with the furniture and the milk cow and the horse. So we solved 2 problems. We got rid of our town bully, and we helped the lady out that was struggling. Okay. You know, one of my favorite things to do has always been looking out the window, looking at either my children or my grandchildren playing games. And it occurred to me one day, hey, you know what? These games were all taught to us by Indians. The Indian children taught us these games. It also occurred to me, these games are all designed to do one thing: improve eye-hand coordination. That makes sense because they use bow and arrow, they use spears, and so forth. We're going to demonstrate a couple of those games that are designed to improve eye-hand coordination. I need a young lady. Okay. Right here, what is your name? Well, Amy, why don't you come on up here? We're going to have you play a game called quoits. Okay? I'm going to have you stand right there. We're going to drive a stake into the ground. You're going to hold it. Okay? You're going to hold it. Okay? Now, I want you to watch me, and then you're going to do what I do. These are called quoits. The Native Americans, they would go down to the water's edge where there were reeds. They'd strip the green top off of it, dry it in the sun, and it gets real stiff. And then you fold it and tie it. Some of these rings are real big, you know, like the size of your hula hoops, and they have games for that. These are a lot smaller. When you throw it, I'd recommend you throw it underhand, like this, okay? And the reason is, you make a nice soft toss. I recommend you flutter it up here. It also gives them a chance to fudge a little bit and kind of help you out a little bit. Okay? All right. Here we go. I can even close my eyes and do it. You'll help me out. Got the idea? Okay. There you go. Nice and high. Get it up in here. There you go. Let's give her a hand. Thank you. For my next volunteer, I need a guy. Right here. Now, you're going to stand right here. What's your first name? Rogan. Okay. I have to tell you, this is tough. Okay? It's been months since somebody was able to do this one, so don't feel bad if you can't do it, okay? It's a game called Bilbo. They would take a chunk of wood, they would carve it out, called spooning, and so I actually got a spoon. When my wife wasn't looking, I borrowed one of her wooden spoons. We've got string on it. The Indians would use a leather ball or a stone or a chunk of wood. And the idea is, I'll do it in slow motion. You flip it up in the air, and it comes down and lands right on there like that. Okay? I'd recommend you not do it this way. I'd recommend you just kind of take it straight up like that. Okay? Close.
No! AK's face almost.
Okay, 40 more tries. Here we go.
You want to be one of them? So close. Oh.
This is tough. Let's give him a hand. Nice try. That's not easy. No, that's tough. Well, I'm just going to take a quick look at some of the other things I got on the table here.